See, as officials are giving an update right now. Let's listen in.
Freezing temperatures will cause roads to refreeze. Extreme cold watches and warnings will be possible on Monday night and Tuesday morning. Burst pipes will be possible with this level of extreme cold. Dangerous travel conditions are likely in the watch and warning areas as early as Saturday afternoon and will continue to worsen throughout the day on Sunday. Hazardous road conditions could also affect the Monday morning commute. Downed trees and power lines could cause extended power outages and debris issues in the watch and warning areas through Monday afternoon. GEMA Homeland Security is coordinating with partners at all levels. That includes our state agencies and our utility partners to ensure Georgians have the resources they need before, during, and after potential winter weather impacts. Resources such as water, blankets, and MREs have been moved across the state where they can better fit the needs of those likely to be affected. We're also working with the Department of Public Health to ensure that nursing homes know who to call if they lose power. Residents should check with their local officials for information about warming centers and comfort station locations. Georgia State Parks are also opening warming stations for public use. Those locations can be found at georgiastateparks.org/alerts. Georgia DOT crews will start pre-treating interstate highways across North Georgia beginning at midnight Friday night into Saturday. Brown operations will continue around the clock, and crews will continuously monitor roadway conditions and treat as needed through the duration of the event.
Coming to you here from the 11 Live newsroom as we listen into the Georgia Emergency Management about their plans to respond for the storm.
The Department of Agriculture, along with DNR and the Forestry Commission, who will operate from a unified command, will have response teams standing by with ATVs, chainsaws, and tow straps. For all of the work that GEMA and our state partners are doing to prepare for the warning storm, the best help we can get is for individuals to prepare for themselves. We ask that everyone takes the time now to prepare your family, prepare your home, and prepare your car. Sit down with your family and make a communications plan. Know how you'll contact one another if you're reconnected, and if you're separated, how you'll reconnect. Make sure you have a ready kit with enough non-perishable food, water, and medications for 3 days. Ensure you have warm clothing and blankets. Have flashlights and batteries. Update your first aid kit. Remember, always have a way to charge your phone. If you have pets, make sure they have enough food and water for at least 3 days, and let them spend as much time inside with you as possible. Take precautions like installing and testing smoke alarms and carbon monoxide detectors. Cover your outdoor pipes, seal your doors, windows, clean out your gutters. Think of ways to safely heat your house, especially if the power goes out. And remember, never use your oven to heat your house. And don't bring a portable generator inside. Before the storm hits, make sure your gas tank is full and prepare an emergency car kit, including a first aid kit, cell phone charger, jumper cables, blankets, water and snacks, and an ice scraper. Starting tomorrow, we ask that you stay off the roads as much as possible. Not only does staying off the roads ensure your safety, it ensures everyone's safety, and it allows Georgia DOT crews the time they need to be able to work on our roads. If travel is necessary, I ask you to slow down, allow extra time, and be especially careful on bridges and overpasses as they freeze first. If everyone takes the time now to follow these steps, GEMA and our state partners will be better able to respond to needs as they arise. GEMA Homeland Security will continue to monitor the winter weather, collaborate with our local and state officials to assess conditions, and determine the best steps to keep Georgians safe. We ask that you follow all our guidance from your local officials, and continue to monitor your local National Weather Service and trusted news sources for the most updated information. GEMA Homeland Security will provide additional information and updates regarding winter weather via our website, gema.georgia.gov, where we have a page dedicated to this event. You can also follow us at Georgia EMA HS for updates on social media, or follow our state and local partners. With that, I'll open it up for a few questions.
Director Lamb, if I could, I have questions obviously for you, but for Will Langston, I wanted to ask you, does this storm have the potential to be the worst ice storm we've seen since 2014, and what does that mean for trees, power lines, and roads?
I think so. This is the first time that we've had an ice storm warning issued in Georgia since that event. It wasn't Snowmageddon, it was actually the event right after that. So it has been about 12 years since we've had these areas that have been forecast to have this amount of ice. If we remember back then, we did see significant impacts, and they were prolonged. They lasted more than a day or two. In some cases, some areas were, tough to travel on with power outages for at least a few days. So the area that's under an ice storm warning right now, which is most of North Georgia and north of I-20, should expect to see some significant ice accumulations. We're talking 1/4 of an inch to an inch of ice. That is a lot of ice. That is going to do a lot of damage to trees and power lines. Travel is going to be difficult to impossible for most areas. Metro Atlanta to the north, up the I-75, 575, 400 corridors all the way to the state line. Metro Atlanta to the east, all the way down I-20 to Augusta, and everywhere north and east of those interstates. So really that northeast quadrant, northeast of Metro Atlanta, and including much of the Metro Atlanta area, we're expecting significant ice accumulations. Travel will be extremely difficult in spots, and maybe extended power outages as well.
Sir, you give these, official statements all the time, and then there are people who have that false sense of security, say it's not going to happen to me. What do you need to tell them to make them know this could be detrimental to you?
Yeah, great question. I think, like I mentioned, it's been 12 years since we've had an ice storm warning in Georgia. So this is not a product that we see issued every year. It's pretty rare. So I think that indicates the confidence in the forecast for this event and the need to take it very seriously.
What are the guardsmen do about 500, I think Governor Kemp mentioned? Can you explain to us in the likelihood what their roles would be with this winter watch, winter storm warning?
They would be important coming in after the event and helping with the cleanup. So there's 500 that are on the SOE. Hopefully we don't need that many, but they would be there if we did to help on the backside of the storm with the cleanup.
Director Lamb, you talk about the activation of the Emergency Operations Center. In practical terms, for people at home, what does that mean about freeing up resources and getting them to where it's needed?
Well, it's a lot about collaboration. So when you think about the SOC, think about all the necessary stakeholders coming together and being in one place, which really makes communication a lot easier. We're able to problem solve. It makes things flow a lot better when you get people in one room. So when people at home think about the SOC, think about collaborating between all the agencies that are needed in an event of this type.
And also, what would be the difference between somebody experiencing an emergency calling 311 and then 911? A lot of times in those scenarios, people can panic. In what instance would they might want to call 311 versus 911?
Well, normally you reserve 911 for a life and death situation, and that's usually where that line's kind of drawn.
Were crews staging already, or had they begun to stage?
We're early on in our preparation. We have utility crews coming into the state. I don't know that they've staged anywhere yet, but all of that is in motion as we speak.
Director Lamb, what advice do you have for folks? They may be in such as Dahlonega, and they get hit with this ice storm, and they are without power, and they're deep in the woods. What would you tell them now about when you may be able to get to them, what they need to do now to prepare for what could be days without power?
Yeah, and I think that's a great point, and it goes back, I think, to one of the previous questions about everybody saying it won't happen to me until it does. And I go back and I say that is the reason we stress so much about preparing now. When you find yourself in that situation, there's not a whole lot that you can do. So I would just really stress to them now to be proactive and be prepared, because what you do now is going to determine the situation that you find yourself in later.
It sounds like the other areas, Columbus, Augusta, Savannah, may not be as impacted, but they could still see some effects. Do we have any indication on how those areas may be impacted in the state?
Yeah, so Augusta will likely be impacted, but you mentioned Columbus and Savannah. They're not expecting ice accumulations down there. In fact, in probably the southern half of Georgia, on Sunday it's going to be pretty warm, could reach the 70s in some areas. That's just a product of the wedge that's moving in. It's going to be very cold in North Georgia, but the southern half of the state is going to be fine. So really, if you're in the southern half of Georgia, you really don't have a whole lot to worry about other than, some heavy rain and maybe some thunderstorms on Sunday. It's really that I-20 corridor and north, and really Macon to Augusta and north, that we're expecting to see those ice accumulations.
What exactly in Augusta is going to be as bad as Athens? We just don't know yet.
Further north is going to be worse. Augusta's probably on that kind of line, but they are in an ice storm warning as well in Augusta. So I would expect impacts there.
I'm sorry, but
That's good.
how much different or how much bigger do you expect this event to be than last week?
Oh, significantly bigger. Last week was 1 to 3 inches of snow in central Georgia. Travel disruptions didn't really occur. We didn't really see any power outages. This is completely different. 2 or 3 inches of snow with roads pre-treated, you can do a lot with. An inch of ice is pretty much impossible to do anything. Power's going to be out widespread. Travel's going to be impossible. So if you're in North Georgia, north of I-20, especially Northeast Georgia, prepare for significant major impacts.
Will, I know it's been a while since we've had an ice storm warning here in Georgia. Have there been any storms in our history that you're aware of that kind of track along the lines of this one? This question comes from our meteorologist. You wanted me to ask you.
Yeah, so the 2014 one is very similar. You might hear the term the wedge that's moving in. That's a weather pattern that we get frequently in Georgia. The difference with this event is the strength of that wedge with the moisture coming in. That's pretty rare. So we have had several events like this in Georgia's history, but it's been 12 years since we've really had one of this magnitude.
Director Lamb, can you talk about GEMA's role in this? Obviously, civilians think that there's a bunch of people running around with GEMA jackets on. Explain GEMA's role and all the agencies that you have and how you coordinate them to a single emergency response.
Sure. So GEMA at our core is a coordinating agency, and one of the major roles we play is just that. So our state partners, as y'all know, are great, whether that be DPS, Forestry, GBI, all of the state partners. We work together very closely. And it's times like these that we take on the coordinating role. We look at the task at hand. We divvy it out amongst all of us. We use the state of emergency to kind of cross maybe some non-traditional roles that we have in the past to make sure that we are getting the most effective response to Georgians in need.
Is there potential for commutes Tuesday morning to also be impacted from this?
Yeah, it's a good question. So another issue we're going to run into, even after the freezing precipitation moves out Sunday night, is temperatures are going to drop well below freezing on Monday morning. So any moisture that's remaining on roads, whether that's from freezing rain or rain later in the day on Saturday, if it's not dried up off of roads by late Sunday night, early Monday morning, it's going to freeze. So I would expect pretty significant impacts across North Georgia for the Monday morning commute. Tuesday morning, we're getting some of the coldest air that we've had in North Georgia in years. We're going to see single-digit low temperatures. That's air temperature with wind chill closer to 0 or maybe negatives. So Tuesday morning is going to be brutal cold. Obviously, anything that remains on Tuesday morning is also going to be frozen.
Director Lamb, can you talk about any kind of help that we are getting outside of the state of Georgia? Are there other resources being pulled in from Florida or perhaps even from federal help down the line? I know it's a big moving storm.
Right now, we don't have, I talked about utility companies coming in earlier. Right now, those are the only ones that we are getting from out of state, but obviously that would change as resource needs change. But for now, it's just utility companies that are coming in from out of state. Go back to the earlier question too, when I mentioned state partners, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention GDOT. They are awesome, and they do such a great job, and they're so good at what they do. And going back to the coordinating piece, we do everything we can to assist them, especially in times like this.
Director Lamb, it seems like today is the day for preparation. Tomorrow, the day for action here at the Emergency Operations Center, and hopefully inaction for people at home. What is one thing that you would tell Georgia families tonight that they need to have on their mind before they go to bed?
Be weather aware. Stay informed.
All right, you heard the message, be weather aware. Now's the time to prepare. We've been listening to Director Josh Lamb, who heads up GEMA, Georgia Emergency Management, talking about the coordination of what is going to need to happen to get you through this winter system. And they made a very clear point that this was the most severe event they've prepared for in 12 years, the ice storm that happened right after Snowmageddon. So they're taking it very seriously, and the message is to make sure you take it seriously Ashley, as well.
Yeah, and I thought Director Lamb, something significant that I pulled away from it, somebody asked about the differences between what we saw last week with that snow down in central Georgia to what we could see this weekend. He said that this is significantly different. He said 1 to 3 inches of snow last week in central Georgia, totally different. An inch of ice is pretty much impossible to do anything. That snow, it packs down, but it's still fluffy. There's a little bit of grip. Ice, as we know, very slippery. You have an inch of it. The sun is going to have to melt it. That salt on the roads can a little bit, but the best thing that he said we can do is to stay off of the roads.
Yeah, he says getting around will be virtually impossible. 2 main focuses, trees and power lines, because ice is very heavy. Those will come down.